not responsible for the additional time you require for pre-show blowjobs. And I am so glad. And I am so glad.
Hold
I am so
up.
glad
Hold
we
up.
are live for that
Hold
comment.
up. Pre-show? No, it's mid-show blowjobs. Get it right.
Hold up. Are you pulling a Nick Rekieta?
No, because I'm very open about my degeneracy.
So welcome to the show, everybody. Let me see if we are actually live.
We are actually live. You should
37 seconds live.
You should go play the music video that Novel Bro posted in the music chat in Discord to open the show up.
Oh wow. We actually have people using our Discord again? What?
Is it decent or is it gonna be like gross?
It's basically just me and Novel Bro. Occasionally I'm Brecht. That's about it.
Okay.
No, Miss Rena posted something a few days ago.
Oh, you're talking about the actual channel. I was wondering, like, is the actual content of the song gonna be horrifically offensive?
I mean, yes, it's horrifically offensive, but...
One second.
Novel Bro posted it. What do you expect?
I mean, Diet Dankula?
I mean, that is very unfair to Novel Bro.
Dankula is a Diet Novel Bro. What are you talking about?
I mean, that may be possible. Novel Bro does not hang out often enough, so...
That's because he's banned from everything. Except our Discord.
One second. Apparently,
I did post the
video. Apparently, we're only allowed 100 videos. I'm pretty sure.
All right, hold on.
So, are we literally watching the end of StreamYard right now?
No, I'm uploading the video. I deleted the few that are reasonable to delete.
I was just gonna have you share screen. I was gonna say because I posted on Twitter a couple days ago.
Oh no, this is fine.
Why, oh why, Mr. G, do you poo-poo in my street? We have parties that are so much fun. Why don't you use them like everyone? Why, oh why, Mr. G, do you have very stinky feet? We have something called baths. Why don't you jump in and wash that ass? Why, oh why, Mr. G, do you creep on every girl you meet? Get away from our blonde babes. Why don't you stop that shit and behave? Why, oh why, Mr. G, do you simp to Jewish peeps? They think less of you than cows. Why don't you stop that bullshit now?
Well, that's enough of that.
Thank you.
That was certainly something here. I don't know what kind of something it was, but it was certainly something.
I mean, this does bring us directly to our first subject, which is, oddly enough, 007. So I have a disagreement with you, Ayrton, but I want to clarify it here on the podcast because, quote unquote, content. I agree. I do not actually believe. I have not held the opinion that the world needs, underline, a black 007. Okay? And I think that the false flag operation to push any actor, because it's really become any actor. It went from Idris Elba to anybody to now some other guy, to make a black 007 because we need a black 007, and we needed a woman black 007 that they tried in the film, and that went over like a wet fart, is just never gonna work. Okay? But it's not because you couldn't have a black 007. it's because that underlined word is need. You don't. It's not necessary. They have been. We have known for years the two ways in which you have a black super spy. Option one, if you're gonna put it in 007, in the universe of Ian Fleming's spy thrillers, right? 007 is a title. It is a number, and you just say Bond retired or promoted himself up to M, right? And this is the new 7, and that's one option. The other option is that 007 is Bond, and the new guy is 008, 006, 0055. I don't care what he happens to be, right? But it's not Bond. That's the important clarification that people keep slapping around. And this is where I agree with you. I agree with you that, like, if you put it in the hands of Hollywood to just come up with, they will do the dumbest shit. Okay? Because they will misunderstand the style, the patina, the approach of what we go for a James Bond, right? To give you James Bond listening to rap, funk, fusion, African.
Listen, I was literally reading Thunderball today.
Yeah.
And what I wrote in my post is 100% accurate if Ian Fleming wrote a black James Bond in today's era. That's 100% what he would have written.
I mean, yeah, but that's because Ian Fleming is an old head from World War II and probably has some backwards positions on things.
He is extremely racist against Slavic people. It's hilarious.
But that doesn't mean we endorse it or that we should do it today. Because we all know somebody could be a super spy and be black. It's funny. But I'm just saying.
But my point is, if you're going to make a black James Bond in the spirit of Ian Fleming and of Bond, what I wrote is canonically accurate to how Fleming would portray Bond in today's era if he was black.
And see, now I'm conflicted because on one end I want to say, well, you can't do a Fu Manchu movie in the style of the guy that wrote Fu Manchu because that is so hyper racist, it's not funny, right? But
Rune,
at the same time,
what you need to do is make it even more racist.
Well, that's the thing there. Give me a minute. On the other hand, I can't actually propose that you shouldn't make a John Carter of Mars without the fantastic racism, because the fantastic racism is like the retarded spice that makes it work. Making a John Carter of Mars that's not ridiculously racist is also making it not ridiculously good.
The amount of times in the first few chapters that I read the phrase "he is half Chinaman" when referring to somebody that he was investigating.
Well, that's why I had to stop reading Fu Manchu, and I'm gonna try again. But the number of times that someone is referred to as yellow knees was just shocking. I was talking about the consistent push for a black 007.
Well, I mean, there are bigger problems than are we going to put a coat of paint on James Bond?
My point is, if you're going to do a black James Bond, go for it, but do it how Fleming would have written it. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, if you want to make a black James Bond, go for it. But you better write that Bond the way Fleming would write a black James Bond.
So
it's the same reason Disney won't make a live action version of Tarzan with a black person playing Tarzan.
I mean,
well, because that would be violating the internal logic of Tarzan.
I mean, it's like they'd make a version of Song of the South, but make Uncle Remus white.
I would watch the crap out of that.
I mean,
I would go to the midnight showing of that.
I mean, do we have any comics to talk about? Because the audience has requested a reaction. We're going to talk about comics tonight.
Well, hold up. We have an audience. I was looking at the chat.
Ty counts as audience.
Hey, Ty. Well, unfortunately, this week I didn't get out and get some comics. Did you get some comics, Aaron?
No, I've been reading Fingerprints of the Gods and Thunderball, and studying an album of Django Reinhardt playing with some jazz violinist. That's been my week of media consumption.
I mean, that sounds pretty good, actually. But I don't know why we were talking about James Bond, because the James Bond franchise has some serious issues with it.
It was a thing that Ayrton brought up in the private side chat, and I wanted to engage him with it, but I also wanted to engage it like intelligently and not just go, Ayrton, you're a fucking racist, you scumbag. But
see,
and
I may be a racist scumbag. I may be a racist scumbag, but I have intelligent points to make on it.
And you know, I'm open to those points, but I will still say it's like I don't disagree with your premise. I disagree with the execution. I think that you can have a black James Bond and he can be as refined and intelligent as a regular James Bond. It just needs to not be James Bond. It needs to be its own dude doing his own thing.
I mean, they made Felix Leiter black, and was it Roger Moore's run?
No, that was during Craig's run.
No.
Actually, no. I take that back. There was a Felix during Roger Moore's run that was black. You're right.
Yeah. Because he was the one when I can't remember which movie it is, when he goes to Harlem and like fights the voodoo priest, medicine man dude. Like Felix is like, hey, your white ass is going to be spotted a mile away.
Well, I mean, something to throw a layer on this. It does get us more comics adjacent. Is people talking about the various palette swaps in Batman, right? And everybody talks about this character or that character, or they like to talk about Gordon. And I personally think that Black Gordon just wasn't very done well, but it didn't bother me. And it's like, well, why didn't it bother you, Joe? It's like, because I remember Black Harvey Dent when nobody gave a shit because it was Billy D. Williams.
Right.
Yeah, but Billy D. wasn't there for the full Harvey Dent because they didn't have the money for it.
Right, but the thing is,
dude, motherfucker read the Bible. All right.
Here's the thing. He shows up for basically less than 3 cameos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because Batman was not mainstream, capital M, underline, exclamation points, bold text, nobody cared, right?
Also in Batman the Animated Series, Harvey Dent was black.
Which was fine.
That's your better example.
Well, because Batman the Animated Series was intentionally based on the 89 film. They were supposed to coordinate with each other. Right? So it's about characterization. And then they did the swap to Tommy Lee Jones in Dark Knight Forever. Or Batman Forever, rather. And it's okay. It's not the best thing Tommy Lee Jones has ever done. I think they would have been a lot better off to just focus on Two-Face, but hey, we got Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey.
Weirdly enough, though, it's not the worst thing Tommy Lee Jones has ever done.
What is the worst thing Tommy Lee Jones has ever done?
Men in Black 3.
I mean, yes. So, certainly. I'll cave to that. I think Men in Black should have stopped after the first one. I think they did fine. Because here's the thing, because we talked about this earlier. I think Men in Black as a series is an early, it's not a patient zero, but it's an early example of the memberberry process getting underway. Because all of the best jokes, especially the ones that are depreciating to Will Smith, are basically, remember Men in Black 1? You remember Tommy Lee Jones? You remember how funny that was? And it's like,
well,
Yeah, but that's not what we came here. We came for new jokes, people.
So Men in Black 1, good movie. It worked. It's actually a comic book adaptation
Not actually a very good comic book adaptation, but that's okay.
but it's in some respects better than the comic
Yeah.
because it's cooler. Then you have Men in Black 2, which is basically what if we subvert the formula?
Right.
What if
So
we
we're going
make
to subvert
Tommy-
your expectations before we ever started using that term.
No. We subvert the formula, not your expectations. Instead of Will Smith as the fish out of water, we got Tommy Lee Jones as the fish out of
Right.
water. Because
Right.
he's retired, he's come back. It's a movie to tell us that the elderly still have valuable things to contribute to society and the workplace.
Sure.
And also that you shouldn't have old people in the post office.
Right.
Those are both important things. Then you have Men in Black 3, which was the search for more money as the movie.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. Then you
Look,
had
I respect the hustle. That doesn't mean it's good.
then you have Men in Black International, which was an attempt to make a Tessa Thompson, Chris Hemsworth vehicle, back before Chris Hemsworth had some self-respect in the roles he chose.
Oh, so you mean not now? So you mean never?
Oh no, he actually has self-respect now.
Oh, you mean after he
So-
did some of the embarrassing himbo shit that he's done? Now he has self-respect.
Self-respect is overrated. Thank you, baby.
But the fundamental issue about James Bond, however, is James Bond is fundamentally a story about class in post-World War II Britain.
Kind of.
I mean, James is an aristocrat, but he acts like a blue-collar British person.
No, he's blue collar, but he acts like an aristocrat because he wants to be accepted in the higher echelons of British culture.
Well, number one, James's family is Scottish nobility. Number
He's also
two-
an orphan.
All right. We need to
hold
take
up, hold up.
we need to take a step back for just a second because we got to talk about English society for a minute. The
Sure.
problem, okay, and it's not him specifically, but he's idiomatic of the problem, is Prince Charles. Okay? Prince Charles was born to the nobility. He is clearly, by the highest definition, an aristocrat.
Mhm.
Okay? But in his youth, during his more vigorous years, he did a lot for blue collar England. He was an active reformer. This means that he's crossing class lines while being a member of the upper class.
Mhm.
Right? And I think that is what you two are talking past each other about.
But
James
hold up,
Bond
hold
is
up.
a character that belongs to all members of the social sphere of the UK.
Yeah, yes and no.
But hold up. Don't forget James Bond's mother is part of the nouveau riche foreigners who come into Great Britain in the post-war era. So he's also representative of people who are rich but not upper class.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I mean, the character was written from the perspective of Fleming.
Mhm,
In the First and Second World Wars.
And may have been
So-
loosely based on
Christopher Lee.
Lee.
Yeah, no, it
The-
was 100% loosely based on Christopher Lee because they're cousins, I believe.
There were a couple of people who fed into that, Christopher Lee being one of them. And Ian is also a man of significance in the English intelligence apparatus. But in addition to
Well, significance. He was the secretary to the head of naval intelligence during World War II.
Ian, hold up. Ian was a key member of the Double Cross Committee. He was
kind of.
No, Ian, the computer guy whose name is completely escaping me. They gave him drugs because he was gay. Completely escaping me.
Wait, can we just give gay people drugs? Can we just fix everything wrong with our society by giving gay people drugs? Because I'm
well,
for
no,
that.
they castrated him. Give me a
Oh.
second.
I think are you talking about Q?
No, give me a
Okay.
second.
No, but during the Second World War, Ian was 100% the secretary to the head of naval intelligence.
No. He, Alan Turing, and a Portuguese encyclopedia salesman were the key three members of the Double Cross Committee. That was the committee that ran the most significant English intelligence operation of the war.
Well, I have my copy here of Thunderball. Let's see. Where's the part where it talks? Where's the about the author part in this?
So hold on.
New York Times.
Do you know what the Double Cross Committee is?
I'm also curious, is this actual church shit talking us and just not being on chat, or is this somebody using church's name to defame us on the side?
I mean, it'd probably be church. And if it's church, he could get on the channel.
He could. I'm not super familiar with the Double Cross Committee, but
Okay.
I know he was part of some other shit during the war.
So the Double Cross Committee was the committee that fed intelligence to the Germans. The Germans had a spy network. The British compromised it before. Yeah. Double Cross Committee was who fed the counterintelligence to the Germans directly. Ian Fleming was the guy who helped the Portuguese encyclopedia salesman make things that were realistic and convincing, and he had already convinced the Germans. Joe, do you know about Operation Double Cross?
I'm just saying on the back here of this is an old print of this book. Let's see. Ian Fleming is a member of the editorial board of the London Sunday Times. He worked as a Moscow correspondent for Reuters and London Times during World War II. He served as assistant to Britain's Director of Naval Intelligence.
Yes.
So officially, that's what he did.
Right.
What I was going to say is, because you asked me, do I know the thing? I don't know the thing, but what I do know is that Ian Fleming was infamous because he apparently strongly approved of and kept trying to talk the English government into using the honeypot. Like that was his that is his go-to weapon of spycraft.
I mean, the honeypot has been successful for centuries.
Well, yes, but the implication is that he also wanted to make sure that the girls were good at it, personally.
I mean, that's the thing.
So Operation Double Cross is essentially what is the reason that D-Day worked.
Right.
Is they've fed a bunch of counterintelligence to Germany, saying England was going to invade from this port into this port on this day, yada, yada, yada.
Operation Mincemeat was the capstone for the Double Cross Committee. They'd been feeding counterintelligence to the Germans for years prior.
And yes, he was part, quote unquote, of that committee, but technically his job was basically the secretary.
Okay, so
to naval intelligence.
So we were talking about media we've been consuming the last week. I want to be clear. You're telling me that, in fact, the people that made D-Day happen was not the Justice League thrown back in time to go try and stop Vandal Savage from taking over the planet.
It was, but the Illuminati covered that up.
Okay.
No. It was the inventor of modern computers, the inventor of James Bond, and a Portuguese encyclopedia salesman.
And wait, who's that other guy though? The Spanish rebel that fled to England?
No, that's the Portuguese encyclopedia salesman.
No, there was another guy.
No, that guy was originally Spanish.
The Portuguese guy was originally Spanish?
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's been a long time. I remember watching Dankula's video on the guy. That.
So Joe, let me give you you and the viewers the Reader Digest version of this story. So, in the opening gambit of the war in the 30s, the British caught all the German spies, and they were feeding them drips of counterintelligence. And then there was this guy in Lisbon who was making up complete and total bullshit. Bullshit that
literally just going up to German spies and just making shit up about the British. It's fucking hilarious.
Stuff that if you had ever been to London,
of course you could do that. You're Jewish. Y'all are sneaky.
But stuff that if you had ever been to London or any British city, you would know that this wasn't right. But most Germans hadn't been to the UK, so they believed this guy. The British acquired him, brought him to England, and were like, bro, you're going to come to work for us, or else what was never fully clarified.
So what you're saying is that basically a bunch of Germans are in other parts of the world, and this Portuguese guy comes up to them wearing a trench coat and a hat, and says, "The dog flies at midnight, and my cat has fleas." Refuses to elaborate and leaves. And the Germans are like, "Well, that's got to be something. Let's go figure out what that is."
You're missing the important fact that every single German is autistic, so they just immediately believed him.
Right, because he just refused to elaborate and walked away.
Yes.
So
yes, that is essentially what happened.
So this guy had a lot of raw talent, and Ian Fleming and other members of the intelligence apparatus in the Double Cross Committee, they helped him refine his product. At one point in time, there was an English ship that got missed by one of their sources, so they fed to an English newspaper an obituary for this man. And the obituary was so strongly written that this man's family was given a pension by the Nazi Reichstag.
yeah. The Nazis were paying him so much fucking money.
Yeah, this man
to just make shit up for them.
Yeah, this man who didn't exist got a pension. He was so convincing. And you have also in the Double Cross Committee, you have Alan Turing breaks the Enigma machine, a thing we all know about. So these two things sort of intersect together. They get the right kind of information.
My understanding, though, is Fleming's role in that committee was basically just to like look at the paperwork and peek in and be like, "All right, yeah, y'all are doing what you're supposed to be doing."
No, he actually helped come up with some of the writing and some of the creative bullshit.
I'll have to look into that. But all right.
Yeah, he was actually an editor of some of the bullshit. So he had a real good context of spycraft-related storytelling because he did it as an actual spy.
And his cousin, was actually a spy.
Yeah, and he knew everybody. So we go back to actual James Bond for a moment. So we have the whole class thing. He's representing of three different types of upper class Brits and working class Brits and aristocratic Brits. James Bond also emerges in the era where the Empire is in decline, but the Empire still has power. So you have to...
Well, they don't have power. They have the pretense of power, being English.
There's a third P word here that Larry should be familiar with because it's very pertinent. They have the prestige.
Yes.
Of power.
Yeah.
Yes.
Their actual power is almost non-existent, but they have the appearance of being powerful.
That's a fair assessment.
So these things are necessary for a James Bond story, but the James Bond films are always reactionary towards broader trends in the movie industry.
Yeah, they're very of their time. If you look between like Roger Moore to Pierce Brosnan, it's very of the time, 70s to the 90s.
Well, then the actual answer is we can't do James Bond anymore.
Well, we haven't quite
What?
gotten there. We haven't quite
So-
gotten there because if they were to do a James Bond movie, they should have done a James Bond movie that was a reaction to the streaming era blockbuster. The
Right,
problem is the
Well-
streaming era blockbuster is dead.
Well, and that's why I say if you watch the Craig movies like in a row as a complete story, it's actually it's a good story. There's there's a good character arc with Bond.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing. So, option 1 for a James Bond that is not James Bond, okay, is Jack Reacher.
Mhm.
All right. Now, Jack Reacher's not a spy. It's not a spy story, but it is the same structure. It is realistic paramilitary adventure.
Yes.
Okay. And Jack Reacher, the character's likable. He doesn't have the panache. He doesn't have the class. Okay. He is Conan. He stumbles through things and hits people. Your next option is Jason Bourne. Jason Bourne has all the technical proficiency and is actually a spy, but has none of the style. So again, we're leaning heavily into the idea that James Bond is about having style, while also being a spy.
Also, the Jason Bourne movies are a castrated version of the Jason Bourne books.
Sure, but I'm going somewhere with this. Let me cook, because your third option, which has the style and the panache, right, is not one you can't do, but it's one you can't do in perpetuity. Okay, and that's actually an episode of DS9. Okay, you do the reference movie, right? So you do a movie in the style of James Bond that is also a meta lampshade on James Bond.
So they teased this idea in the Argyle movie, which they
Right.
didn't actually
Which
do.
then didn't follow through on because they didn't have the balls to do it. But what I'm getting at is that in order to actually get a James Bond, okay, it needs to have the physical prowess to make it believable. Absolutely, we all agree. Okay, but James Bond films are not martial arts action films. They're not gunplay films. They're not about giant action set pieces. Okay, I didn't enjoy the Craig era James Bond because the Craig era James Bond had too much Jason Bourne in it, and Craig had no finesse. Okay, it was a real world James Bond, which is not what we want. We don't want real world James Bond. We want James Bond, smart talking Superman.
The thing is, in the early James Bond books, he was very much like Craig was in the early movies.
Right, but they were also period dramas, albeit the period then was current. Now they are not. Now they are historical.
And it kind of in my opinion, the whole Craig era kind of spun horribly out of control.
Look, let me ask you a serious question. It's going to sound stupid, but it's serious. You're in Hollywood.
Mhm.
You are the producer man.
Mhm.
Okay? Executive comes to you, says, we're rebooting the Indiana Jones franchise. Okay? And we're going to
Okay.
start Indiana Jones in the year 2000. Instead of Nazis, it's the War on Terror.
No,
You and I say no viscerally. Okay? But here's the thing. That is basically what Craig era James Bond did. They said we're going to redo Casino Royale. Okay? But it's modern. Okay? With modern aesthetics. That's not what the generation of James Bond fans were raised on. The generation of James Bond fans were raised on, at best, more
Connery or Brosnan.
Brosnan was the name I was digging for. Okay, some of them have seen Connery. Connery is becoming a rarefied taste just because of the age of the films. I'm not saying they're bad or good. But that's what you have to lean into, because otherwise your consuming majority won't consume it, and they didn't. They consumed the first one and they said, okay, we'll see where this goes. They consumed the second one. They said, okay, Spectre was great, except for the James Bond is.
Spectre wasn't the second one.
What was the second one?
Quantum
the
of
second-
Solace.
Yeah, where
Yeah,
they were like fighting over water in
well,
Bolivia.
and that's
the thing
the
is,
thing.
the water. Well, hold up. The thing is, the water crisis in Bolivia is less significant oppression than Bolivia is actually going through with their water today.
And
So
more
it's
importantly, just because notice how I missed it. That movie was so uninteresting that it went right under the fucking radar. That's
and
why they had to pull Spectre, because it's like if we don't.
Actually,
Oh.
Quantum of Solace is very underrated. If you watch Royale, Solace, Spectre, if you watch them back to back, Spectre is
up.
actually really good.
Hold up. Let me.
You mean
I think
because
you guys are missing.
you mean because I get to watch somebody molest James Bond's thighs and talk about rats? Because let me tell
No,
you,
that's
that movie was,
That's Skyfall.
Skyfall.
that's Skyfall. Jesus Christ, these movies are so
So-
fucking interchangeable.
So hold up. So the Daniel Craig era James Bond movies in order, because there are some errors that are happening here. We have
Because
Casino
I
Royale.
did. Because I
we
want
have
to be clear, I
Quantum
did
we have
watch Solace.
Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
We have Skyfall,
Yeah.
which was one I actually enjoyed. Spectre was the fourth movie. No Time to Die, which was a funnier title once I realized Craig actually had had James Bond dying guaranteed in his contract because he was molested by the producer.
Oh God.
Yeah, Daniel Craig was only cast because Barbara Broccoli wanted to bang him,
Jesus.
and it is strongly implied that she did.
But I have you actually have reminded me by accident. There is another James Bond, and it's even a halfway decent one, but nobody wants to admit it.
Okay.
Jack Bauer.
Jack Bauer isn't
So-
really.
No, he is.
Bond.
He is, and I'll actually explain it. So when they were doing the 24 films, right after the series had more or less wrapped, and they knew they weren't going to get much more out of it, it was Kiefer Sutherland who said, "I really want to do something in the style of James Bond with Jack Bauer. I really want to evoke the old serials, right?" And so they made the one set in England is actually a James Bond alike by design. And I want to say shit, I can't remember the name. I gotta dig it up. But it was an intentional homage to James Bond. And in a certain sense, for a certain era of War on Terror era paranoia, Jack Bauer is the American James Bond. It's just an American James Bond that ends up in a Russian prison. God, I hate it when I can't remember shit that I have in my brain. Right. Yeah, it's called Live Another Day as opposed to Die Another Day. Because they knew the reference they were making.
So, if you're wanting a American style James Bond that's hitting on all cylinders, it's the Jack Ryan movies, not the Jack Ryan show. The Jack Ryan movies.
So, I mean, here's where we get really into the grain. Jack Ryan as the Shadow, Alec Baldwin. Jack Ryan as Harrison Ford, or Jack Ryan as the kid from Star Trek.
No. Let me look at all the Jack Ryan movies now. But both Ford and Baldwin were excellent as Jack Ryan.
They were. I actually believe that the new kid from Star Trek is the odd duck out we don't need.
Oh yeah, Chris Pine wasn't there.
Yeah, we don't need Chris Pine.
You forget the Ben Affleck one.
Ben Affleck one was okay, but it also went right under the like I saw it. I remember it. I remember that it's about literally fighting Nazis, which is kind of neat. But like they I don't.
Sorry, quick aside. Are y'all tired of all of these period pieces being just fighting Nazis? What about fighting Pol Pot? He killed a lot more people.
Well,
much bigger piece of shit.
The thing about Sum of All Fears specifically is that it's not Nazis. It's a Tom Clancy book about the idea of a neo-Nazi fascist movement that actually tries to pull the coup in America.
So, hold up. So the film is different than the book.
Yeah.
Because the book features Russians involved in it, and it's not straight out Nazis.
Yeah.
And there's also East German communists, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So, what I was digging at and not remembering. Oh Jesus! I didn't even hear about that one. Is Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, which we did not
That's
need.
the Chris Pine movie. That's
Yeah,
Chris
that's
Pine movie.
The important one is that one's not based on a book at all.
That's based off of, I think, a video game.
Barely. It doesn't give source material in its write up. But I will say that the one that we haven't had yet, the one that I'd actually would like to see, right, of a Tom Clancy, we have not had Cardinal in the Kremlin.
Which
that
would
one
be
keeps
a
going
good
under
movie.
the radar.
But that's because they don't want to talk about communism.
But no, I didn't even know in 2021 we got a Michael B. Jordan, Jack Ryan called Without Remorse.
Yeah, I forgot about that one too. You know, I'm impressed. I didn't expect this this ramble about James Bond was going to be such a fruitful ramble.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. I didn't think we were going to get this much material on it.
I mean,
dude, you bring Bond up anytime you want me to talk intelligently. What are you talking about?
I mean, it wasn't particularly a strong one. Did you guys watch that video I sent you about the BBC's use of the British DEI system and how the new Doctor Who doesn't work from the DEI system?
No, I did not. I didn't see that one because one came today, and I was asleep most of the day.
Yeah, I understand how that is. So this person went through, tracked all the Doctor Who stuff, and found some very fascinating things. Like, for example, the total number of males, including major characters and minor characters, is 6% under the statistical point it should be. The number of Muslim males was 8% higher than it should be. And the number of gay males was 5% higher. The number of disabled males was only slightly lower than their number in the broader population. So that was a interesting point of fact. And when you look at males who have major roles in seasons 1 and 2, there are only 2 that were featured heroically. All the other white males that were, significant characters were featured as villains.
I mean, this shouldn't surprise anyone. This is the mix. We've seen this is the mix. We've said this is the mix.
And of the major villains of seasons 1 and 2, 4 of them were white males, and they were ones that are most interesting.
Wait, are we talking about porn? I'm lost. I kind of zoned out for a second.
We talked about Doctor Who for a second.
Oh, gotcha.
Unless you consider Doctor Who.
So we are talking about cuck porn. Got it.
I mean, Doctor Who was weird, but no, it was interesting that somebody actually crunched the numbers, saw that the numbers didn't make any goddamn sense. So, you guys want to talk about the Ethan Klein stuff?
Well, I was gonna say
Well,
actually that.
you're gonna have to catch me up, but
Well, I was gonna say that this mathing that you have discovered, oddly enough, just leads back to something that I brought forth for the show. Because I am both not surprised and I am angry, and I have been screaming about this for years, and people said I was crazy. So, over at TrekMovie.com, your source for everything new in Trek, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, which has been canceled,
Sorry,
showrunner.
just quickly. Is he still gay?
Oh,
He
Ethan Klein?
was, but he. Oh, Ethan Klein. No, he's got a wife.
So he's gay.
I mean, she is Israeli, so yes, presumably.
So, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds showrunners talk 5th season end and suggest continuing with a new TOS show. So they want to do it. They want to do the thing that I have been saying people that these cultural vandals want to do for the better part of almost 2 decades. They want to rewrite history,
Mhm.
and they want to make it so that no one watches the original stuff anymore.
Mhm.
Just
Now-
gone. Just why would you ever go watch that old shit? You can watch the new shit that we made that was approved by committee.
Now, Joe, I got a much better idea. What if they took Star Trek the animated series and made that live action?
I mean, I would almost halfway be okay with that, but only because the quality of the animation is so poor that you could barely follow what the fuck's going on.
See, there's a compromise you can reach with that. There's a compromise. So, yeah, you remember how Ethan Klein got into a little social media controversy with Hassan Piker, everybody's favorite terrorist supporter.
No, because I don't give a shit what Hassan Piker has to say, but I'm sure you'll fill me in.
I mean, we talked about it on the show.
I'm sure we did. I'm just saying it did not stick in my brain.
And so Ethan Klein did a massive video about all the times Hassan Piker supported terrorism. We talked about that last week. We talked about the Predator animated movie last week because Joe actually saw it. I was unable to watch it.
We did in fact talk about it at some length.
But Hassan Piker did not watch the review bomb. He made a lot of efforts to not watch the review bomb, but several of his orbiters did. And Ethan Klein, in true Yu-Gi-Oh fashion, revealed his trap card. So there's a controversy going on in the reaction community on YouTube and Twitch, where there are people who will just play videos and sometimes full-ass TV shows without adding any transformative content whatsoever.
Okay.
They'll just let that stuff go. And so Ethan Klein registered a copyright for his massive video response to Hassan Piker, because he knew these people were going to do one of these stream snipes where they just play his whole content to gain money for their monetized streams. Several of these people organized with specific Reddit communities that said expressly, this is for the purpose of preventing these people from making money. One of these YouTubers even said, thank you for not giving money to Ethan Klein, but giving it to me instead. And Ethan Klein released his trap card saying that he was going to make generational wealth for his lawyer and his lawyer's family by suing all of these people.
Okay.
So what do you think about this use of copyright? I know Ayrton thinks it's gay.
Sorry, I got distracted. Me and my wife are currently causing chaos on Twitter.
I mean, the whole process is gay. Hassan is gay. Ethan is gay. All of this is gay.
Yeah, I mean, copyright laws for the most part are gay.
To be specific, I don't have a problem with people getting their hand caught in the cookie jar and then having the consequences foisted upon them. Okay? But at the same time, it's like, come on, you set it up expressly to cause this, expressly so you could do this, and we are to believe that it is not for the drama, because we know it is. It's a drama farm. This is a drama
Well,
farm
no.
in action. Farmer Klein got his drama on, and Hassan was stupid enough to let
No,
himself
Hassan
be
wasn't.
seated.
Hassan wasn't. His orbiters were.
Wait,
Right.
Hassan
So-
specifically didn't
Right.
get involved
Larry-
because his attorneys were intelligent.
Yeah, but Larry, we know that on some level you're responsible for the people, quote unquote, what
Wait.
orbit you, because they
So-
come to see your content.
So can we copyright strike anybody who does a review of the Hamsters books? Because we were the first.
Which hamster books?
Well, we would have to have copyright our review of the Hamsters books.
I'm just saying.
We would have had to went through the
I-
process of registering.
I mean, I'll go back through. I mean, that's our most watched stream is when me and Church first reviewed the hamster books.
Are we talking about Teenage Mutant mutated
Ad-
super
adult-
hamsters?
Adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters, you Neanderthal.
Yeah, see, I wasn't there for those, so I don't know. I don't get any of that fat stack if you guys copyright that shit.
Well, I mean,
I'm just-
Church isn't
I'm just
really
saying.
either. We have to get the channel monetized. And the best part about that is that our numbers are so low, it's like we're starting from zero.
But I'm just saying that stream in particular is I'm pretty sure actually the Powerpuff Girls stream might have more views than that one, but they're close.
I'm
They're
pretty sure
they're
that
like
one.
one
Hey.
they're like 1 and 2.
Hey, can we copyright that one? Because remember, the owners of the actual property aren't making that show anymore. So
Oh, that's a
our
good point.
reading is a transformative work from abandoned property.
Oh, that's a good point.
We might actually be able to argue that's original work by us.
I'm gonna look into that. Me as Alex Jones playing Bubbles.
I mean, you took some serious vocal injury for that, sir.
Yeah, I'm still
I-
feeling it to this day.
Look,
You
I'm
know,
not, I'm not
I
saying-
can only lick a butthole for like 20 minutes versus like 35.
Look, I'm not
because of
saying
that
Alex
strain.
Jones forever, but I am saying that I stand by. If we can find more interesting scripts of terrible things, we should do more dramatic reading. That was fun and high viewership.
Listen, I found a My Little Pony Futa fan fiction script, but you guys didn't want to read that. So
See that's the thing is I figured out why I didn't want to do that. It is not just because of the disgusting degeneracy. That's a fan fiction, and if we just start reading fan fiction, yeah, we'll never run out. But it's gonna be all of it's gonna be trash. The Powerpuff Girls thing was trash, but it was official trash from an official source. I'm saying get actual scripts from actual businesses.
oh, I've been keeping my eye out. Trust me. But the best I've found so far is My Little Pony Futa porn.
we need to get some of those gay sauces that like Doomcock claims that he has that tell him everything that are
Ooh.
clearly fronts
I mean-
for businesses to shout out about things they don't like that they can't say
I mean,
publicly.
I mean, we could just make it up. We could just go on to Tumblr or Reddit
mean-
and just find some fan fiction. Be
I
like,
mean, look,
so
I'm
this
not
script.
I'm not saying Doomcock makes it
So-
up, but I mean, there's very little proof that some of this shit isn't just made
So,
up. So hey,
Breaking news. This script has leaked to us. This is the new Wonder Woman film where Wonder Woman has a massive cock and fucks the shit out of Superman. All right, let's get into reading this script. And then you have to play Wonder Woman, Rune, and you have to do all the moans during the sex scenes.
oh
God damn
god,
it.
it's just shit show.
I mean, I have sources, but not the kind of sources I can get something stolen from.
I mean, is it stolen if it just falls out the back of a truck because the source themselves was so offended? They're like, you got to see this. You got to tell the world. You got to warn everyone. We become the production to internet pipeline where they're like, "Look, we didn't want to make it; they made us." Because that's the thing. I am still idealistic enough to believe that people in production honestly want to do better stuff, and they're just not being given the option. They're being dictated to, "You will make this happen." And it's like, but this is shit. And they're like, "Don't say that in public." It's like, oh, okay.
I'm just
mean,
saying. Now I'm 100% gonna look up some Wonder Woman Futa fan fiction porn, and we are so reading that next week.
One, no, and two, whatever you want to do in your own private time, because you're a degenerate, Ayrton, more power to you. I hope you and your wife to be are very happy together.
Oh, we are. Don't worry.
Okay.
But anyway, lads, they are ending the new Ultimate Universe.
Again.
Well, yes, but the one that had the Ultimate Spider-Man in it that I liked. Marvel has decided they're capping that off at 24 issues, the whole Ultimate Universe.
Because they don't want competition with their own failing 616?
It's unclear yet as to why that's the case. But
It's because they need the budget to. They need the budget to write the Ultimate Universe to get their 9-volt batteries for their smoke detectors.
Yeah, no, they are ending it because of the chirp. It is the ceiling bird.
No, they're ending it because they're getting negative public feedback because people are saying we like this Spider-Man better.
Right.
So, sorry, real quick, Ty. We don't wonder why the viewer count is low. We're 100% aware of why it's low.
I mean, there are a lot of reasons. We could do the autopsy of the show.
Going back to Church calling EVS a piece of shit.
I mean, that was certainly one of the things that was damaging to the show.
That was the biggest one.
But the problem is, all the niche pop culture shows have fallen down a hole. We're not alone.
I just feel the need to restate this for the record.
No.
Exactly. But the new Ultimate Universe is ending in part because they're going to have the Maker return after 2 years, and then he's going to do something to destroy the universe he created and go off to repeat this again because it worked as a marketing tool.
Quote, for reasons.
Yes. And Hickman is already bouncing out of the project because he and Marvel are having creative disagreements again.
Because they don't want a successful Peter Parker book.
I mean, they don't want a lot of successful books because the Black Panther was doing well.
Wait,
In part,
Nahisi Coates' Black Panther was doing well?
no.
Or are you saying it did well after they got rid of him?
No, I'm saying the Ultimate Black Panther book that had nothing to do with Coates was doing well. Brian Edward Hill is writing that book.
Ah.
But the problem is the powers that be that Marvel don't like the way he writes Black Panther. They also don't like the way he writes Blade.
Is he the one that made the new Black Panther white?
No, he is not.
Oh.
That is a different alternate universe comic book.
Because I think we should read and review that.
Well, I mean, the thing is that if you make Black Panther white in the context of Wakanda that exists in Marvel Comics, he's not the bad guy, but they want him to be the bad guy.
He also got rid of all the ceiling birds.
Guys, this is not why they did it. All right, Marvel made a white Black Panther, and specifically made a white blonde Black Panther expressly to try and own their critics by positing that if you like it, you're a racist, and if you say it's wrong, you're a racist. It is black ops. It is a false flag. They
I
knew
think
exactly what they were doing.
no, I think they're just prepping us for the new Black Panther actor who should be Robert Downey Jr. with a blonde wig.
I mean, we like that joke, but that's not actually going to happen.
That's not a joke. I'm 100% serious. I want Robert
I don't
Downey
care.
Jr.
I
to
don't
play
care
Black
if you
Panther.
mean it, Ayrton. I'm saying on the internet that is a joke that has been around. It is a joke. They are not going to do that. Okay? But they also want to stop the criticism from people pointing out that Wakanda is a shit show. All right? They want to stop people pointing out that Black Panther, as it has been presented as a means to talk about social issues, doesn't fucking work. Because Black Panther is an adventuring science hero. Okay? He's basically the Phantom. And they need to use him like that, or not at fucking all.
You know, Rue, you brought up a way to bring the Phantom into the show, so why don't you open up with that?
What, back to the Phantom? Because we're going to talk about Batman and the Phantom 2040.
That's why I'm giving you the opening to segue that in.
Okay. Well, I mean, for any of our audience who don't know, the Phantom is a pre-comic book fictional character. It's actually from I want to say a series of pulp serials. That is a dude whose family ship was attacked and sunk by pirates, and he survived. Washed up on a remote, I want to say either South Seas or West African coastline. West African coastline. Was raised by tribesmen and swore himself to the vengeance oath to halt evil, inequity, actual inequity, and piracy in all its forms, and that this has become a inherited line of lineal descent. And then the actual series picks up with the 22nd Phantom, Kit Walker, in the 1920s and 30s.
Mhm.
Right? Then, of course, because I've mentioned it, there was a cartoon by Peter Chung, the guy who did Aeon Flux, called Phantom 2040, which was in the far-flung future, another Kit Walker becomes a new Phantom with new problems and new antagonists. And there was some flap, there was some struggle, because Razor Fist, renowned fan of The Shadow, and Contrarian, who I sometimes listen to, made the argument that Batman Beyond is just Phantom 2040. And I can't say he's entirely wrong. There are several overlapping thematic notes that are the same. Right? Terry McGinnis is an inheritor character. He's inheriting Batman. It is set in the far future. Bruce Wayne takes the role of the Bengalan mystic that advises Kit Walker in 2040. They deal with new villains, which include a Lex Luthor alike, whereas the primary villain of 2040 was the corpo nation state governance. That was a mad woman and her brain dead husband and her insane son. There are a lot of overlaps. There are a lot of divergent differences. The big one being artistic, because apparently people don't like Peter Chung's art, which is weird. I think it's honestly budgetary. But they like the Bruce Timm art, even though by Batman Beyond and Justice League they were no longer using Dark Deco. They were now using digitally aided drafting, and it's proportionally much less qualitative.
So let's do some fun numbers, shall we?
Okay.
Phantom 2040 came out in 1994.
Okay.
And went on to run till 1996.
So 4 years.
Batman Beyond, well, not 4 years, it's 2. But Batman Beyond didn't air until 1999.
Right.
So that is the only thing resembling a point this argument from Razor Fist has.
That things happen sequentially.
That Batman Beyond did happen first, but Batman Beyond isn't even the first attempt to do this sort of pulp inheritor.
No, I'm sure you just misspoke, but no, you just said Batman Beyond came after.
It did.
Right. Razor Fist wasn't saying that Batman Beyond came first. He was saying that Batman Beyond is a distaff of 2040, which did
Right.
come first.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that's the
Okay.
only element that the fact that the Phantom came first
Okay.
is the only thing that is true in that statement.
Right.
Because I mean, first and foremost, the Phantom is an entirely different character. But you know what else came that was a similar sort of scheme? Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. That occurred in 1999 as well.
That is true. That show is also it has a warm little place in my heart. That doesn't mean it's not bad.
It had, it had promise.
It
with
had
a
heart.
With a little bit more support, it could have worked.
Its biggest problem was being attached to Archie.
But first and foremost, Kit Walker was not in the Phantom 2040. Was in no way, shape, or form different from any of the prior iterations of Phantom that existed in comics media. He was the same guy, just in the future. And we also had a Defenders of the Earth cartoon where we had the Phantom having access to spaceships and stuff. So that's not even really new. Terry McGinnis was not Bruce Wayne.
No, he was in fact the worst option of how to clone Bruce Wayne.
Well, let's forget that thing they added later, which I actually...
Dude, Batman Beyond was the shit. What are you talking about?
Well, no. Maroon does not like the stealth ending of the series that was put into Justice League Unlimited.
Right.
That's fair.
You're saying if we take the show as the show is given, as it should be given, then yes, Terry McGinnis is his own dude. I'm okay with that.
Yes. And because he's his own dude, he's actually in conflict with Bruce Wayne. He doesn't want to listen to him. In fact, in several episodes, his not listening to Bruce ends up making everything work out better. And in the process of his not listening to Bruce, he often learns things about the old man that the old man didn't want to tell him, that the old man, didn't even want to deal with. And Terry helped the old man sort his own shit out. So it's not like the Bengalan Mystic at all. If we look at the technological solutions that Kit Walker and Phantom 2040 had, they were largely standard Phantom shit. Terry McGinnis had upgraded Batman shit. Like, here's Batman stuff with like cyberpunk stuff. Right? It's not even the same.
I mean, I will say this is also why DC should not be making Batman Beyond comic books.
I mean, several of the Batman Beyond comic books they have made are actually good.
Some of them, but some of them are also complete ass. And they're complete ass because they have to reconcile being connected to old Batman stuff, so they're connecting it to the worst Batman stuff. So, for instance, there's that run where they have Batman Beyond, but Dick Grayson is a super spy running a super spy organization, and out of nowhere, after not having been mentioned at all, despite the fact there was an entire episode about how Ra's al Ghul was still alive and then they killed him, we have Damian Wayne leading the League of Assassins, even though we know that doesn't work in the timeline because Damian Wayne is supposed to become the next Batman because he's the trauma pet of that artist who wants to put Batman in a trench coat. That bullshit. And then, of course, instead of they focus on that and all of Bruce Wayne's old shit while trying to make Bruce Wayne start using more robo drones instead of having Terry be Batman. Instead of the more interesting things about Batman Beyond, like they introduced a version of Catwoman who is also multiple Eve from Invincible. Because she can copy herself up to 9 times, because 9 lives, haha.
I mean,
All of those things are in a DC run of Batman Beyond.
the only things that are interesting of a Batman like they did for Batman Beyond was the Joker's as a gang. That makes a lot of sense to me that exists.
Yeah. No, that was fine.
And the fact that Kurt Langstrom's technology became a recreational drug, that also made sense to me.
Which I actually do not like that episode's end result, but that's just me.
But I mean, the fact that as a matter of world building, that makes a lot of sense, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. The fact that Venom became a steroid enhancer.
Venom
Those
also
are all-
became a dinosaur in Secret Wars.
Wrong Venom.
Wrong.
Secret
Venom.
Wars. Secret Wars. I said it 3 times. Where's Church?
10 minutes in the chokey. Give him the cone of shame.
I mean, we still have to see how they abuse Secret Wars for the new Marvel movies.
What new Marvel movies? What are you talking about?
I mean, they're happening.
No, what? No,
So I am gonna have to.
no.
they-
The only
they-
Secret Wars reference is Logan.
Oh no, the movie is planned.
No,
Sad-
no, no.
Sadly,
it's
the
not.
only way they can make the movie work is if they bring in Henry Cavill as the Jerry Curl Beyonder.
Nah. I reject your
you-
reality and substitute my own.
Fuck you.
But
I don't care if that's a movie reference. That guy can go eat a dick, and you can eat
It's-
a dick for referring
It's
to him.
it's not a movie reference because I haven't seen any movies.
No, it is
it's a
actually a
mi-
movie reference.
no,
from
it's a
a
mi-
movie called it's from a movie called The Dungeon Master.
Oh,
It is
Mhm.
actually hilariously awesome for a bad
Mhm.
movie. Okay, and it was quoted by that dude on MythBusters, and that's where everyone knows it. So get fucked.
And I think that dude on MythBusters actually worked on that movie.
I don't believe he did.
I'd have to look that up. He might have. Either that or the other dude in MythBusters worked on it. I could see Heineman working on that. But
Also,
like for example,
pour one out for Richard Mole.
yes. Well, we did back when he died.
Sadness.
But yeah, it's the issue is a lot of the streaming stuff is kind of meh right now. The movies are all meh. And it's harder to go out and see them. Like, for example, I'm pulling up my Netflix as we're talking. So I'm commenting on what my next Netflix feed is.
Me and the spell checker here, who, when I'm trying to talk shit on Twitter, likes to correct my spelling when I'm trying to, get people riled up. We've been watching a new series called Long Way Home. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Long Way series. Ewan McGregor and his friend Charlie Borman. In 2004, they rode motorcycles from London to New York, going east. And subsequently, they've done 2 others, and they're in the middle of filming and releasing the newest version, where they rode from Ewan McGregor's home in northern Scotland to Charlie's home in London, but they go through like Scandinavia and the Baltics and stuff like that. Very, very good series. We're on, what are we on? Episode 6? 5, 6? So they're riding vintage motorcycles this time. Ewan is riding a 1974 Moto Guzzi Eldorado police special, and Charlie Berman is riding a 1974 BMW R75/5. Yes, I am incredibly autistic when it comes to motorcycles. Ugh. And it's great. It kind of gives you a glimpse into the purest form of motorcycle riding. Just hopping on some random ass old bike and just going somewhere the longest way you possibly can, just for the fun of it. Great fun. Highly recommend. Okay.
Obi-Wan did fell down, go boom though.
Yeah. Yes. Ewan McGregor did fall down and have a crash on his bike. He did go boom.
Well, I mean, did Darth Vader hit him with the lightsaber before he did?
No. He just they were riding in what country was that?
Did he leave just his clothes?
I think it was Sweden. He tried to get over on the curb, right? Because most civilized countries, the curb you can just kind of like go onto, but apparently in Sweden the curb has a little lip to it, and he tried to go onto the curb and hit it and fell over because there was like a little hump onto it. But yeah, that's what we've been watching. It's been great. Very, very, very good.
But yeah, I know something I'm watching for next week's show. There's a movie called K-pop Demon Hunters. It's animated and Korean.
I mean, it's only pertinent because we need to see how closely it lines up to our friend and her magical girl property.
Miss Rena, of course.
Yeah, Miss Rena. I don't think Miss Rena is mad at it because I think it's a situation of just two ideas that are very similar cropping out in similar time. But I low-key kind of want people to go after Miss Rena's product instead.
Mm-hmm.
So we should give it a fair shake and be like, is this even halfway decent on its own?
Like, I haven't watched the live action How to Train Your Dragon.
I didn't watch the animated How to Train Your Dragon and feel like my life has been improved greatly.
Haven't even had
Dude,
the
animated How to Train Your Dragon is actually obnoxiously good. There's no reason it should be that good.
Also, I've not watched the new 28 Days Later movie because it just, who cares? Zombie movies are played out.
Drinker gave a non-spoiler based, pretty positive review of it, and it's still not putting my ass in a seat to go watch it.
Yeah,
because I saw it the 28 weeks later, and that was so bad that it put a spike in that quote unquote property. We don't need more of it. It's dead. It's been dead. It was dead the whole time. It's been dead before things became dead. It has been dead since about the moment they decided that the secret to being immune to the disease was a single genetic abnormality that gives you heterochromia.
You know, they have pills for that nowadays. You can
They
get
do
rid of
not.
that.
They don't know.
But I want to be clear, like when people are talking about this and then they're going to try and like science how the infected work, because they're not zombie guys, they're infected, right? Well, because yes, I want to point out 28 months later, or whatever the fuck its name is, 28 years later, is now built around the idea.
Well,
not only
28 days later would just be a menstrual cycle.
All right, so here's the thing. 28 Days Later was a perfect film. I don't mean perfect in the sense it didn't have flaws. I mean perfect in the sense that it was a self-contained problem. They had a viral outbreak. It ravaged the countryside. And then they went, oh, wow, these not zombies will die by starvation by the end of the month. And it's like, oh, that is perfectly fucking logical. Okay?
You just wait it out.
You just wait it out. Being remote and hidden is actually how you survive. Holy shit. Okay? Then they
It
needed
was
to have...
actually an intelligent zombie movie.
Right, so then they said, we're going to do it again, but we need to have a reason for the outbreak. So they said, basically, that there are some people who are carriers, but they are not turned. And you know what? That works. That actually works. But their explanation for how it's done, as I said, if you have hediachromia, if you have one black eye and one not black eye, the zombie bite doesn't turn you.
Listen, if you have one black eye and not another, you better come back with the sandwich made properly, right?
That's correct.
All right. See?
For shame, Ayrton. The thing is that this all hinges not only on the idea.
I learned it the hard way.
that,
Okay.
I mean, that's between you two and your state law enforcement. The thing is that this all hinges on the idea that in rebuilding society in the UK, with the aid of the Americans, we decided to let one janitor have one biosensor that opened every door in reality, with no manual overrides and no additional security features, so that he could catch the disease from his wife and then cause a massive outbreak that somehow is not stopped by bullets and fire. Right? So that those two kids could get infected but be carriers and not die, so that they could, because saving kids is good, right? So we could have a lead-in for a film that never needed to happen, which is the new one. And the new one, they've decided that it's not good enough that we have infected. Now we have to go full on Left 4 Dead, meaning special infected. And spoilers for a film you ain't seen yet, one of the plot points is they have babies. So somehow the zombies are feeding themselves enough not to die.
Hold up.
They're having mutations that make them superhuman,
sorry,
and they're making babies.
I zoned out for a second. What?
Yeah.
Zombaby. Because
A
somebody
zombie.
because somebody saw Zack Snyder's Land of the Dead.
Oh, you should have just said Zack Snyder. Okay. All right.
No. It's not a Zack Snyder movie. Stop interrupting. It's not funny. Some idiot making this new movie saw an old movie and said, I want to do that, and redid it in loving detail. And we're getting Zombaby again. And it's fucking retarded.
But you know who else did this, but better? Joss Whedon. In a little movie you might have not seen the movie, but it's a little TV series you saw called Firefly.
No, actually, it's
there's some zombies in Firefly. What are you talking about?
The Reavers are trash.
Well, hold up.
I want to be clear. Reavers are okay in Firefly. Reavers are trash in Serenity.
Correct.
Right.
I 100% agree with you.
I pivoted back to the TV series because there was that one episode where there's a Reaver who was treated for a medical condition because people are like going, oh my God, look at all this shit that's in this guy. Something's wrong with him. And they didn't know that was a Reaver.
The thing is, because remember, it's not actually that he has a bunch of medical shit in him. Okay? The thing is that Firefly posits a realistic source of a problem. If you have people who you put on a spaceship and you send them too far out, far beyond society, where there is no frontier, nothing. Okay? The law doesn't exist. Some people lose their shit and turn into fucking murdering cannibals. How do we know this is true? Because it was true in the Wild West. It was true in times of famine. It is true in times of war and dysphoria, that there are people taken to the extreme when all the niceties fall away who turn back into fucking cavemen. Right?
Mhm.
That makes sense. And then the implication that one guy who survived having seen it would lose his mind and turn into it is a horrifying statement, but it's realistic and it's sad.
Yeah.
Right? But then they say no. In Serenity, it's not that they went too far and they flew too fast and they never came back right. No, it was a giant science experiment by the evil government to make superhumans by making psychos.
So,
No, that was not what happened.
no,
was to
no,
make
in
obedient
Serenity,
no,
they
I
tried to
I get the
pacify.
I get the 1984 we're going to
population.
use Soma to make
Yes.
people pacified bullshit they were aiming for, but they obviously failed. The result was giant space murderers, and yet again, the fundamental failing of any concept of internal security. You expect me to believe that this civilized super government is able to control everything, but they are not somehow able to isolate these things on one planet and just burn that fucking planet.
So you're not wrong. I don't disagree. But as Larry said in the episode that we're talking about, it's a very good sci-fi horror trope, right?
Mhm.
Like
And the issue
like a human who's not quite human, who looked into the void and the void looked
Right.
back and it
But the-
destroyed their brain.
but here's the thing.
That's very, very good.
But here's the thing, focusing on the show, because this is where we're going to say Larry is correct. Reavers become a phenomena. They become a thing that happens, which will be solved basically by the progression of social improvement. Eventually you won't get Reavers because enough shit will be civilized that they don't happen.
Correct.
which
Or they happen incredibly rarely.
is a theme of the show.
Right. Because what we have over in the 28th series and other zombie things is Zombaby.
Which
Okay? And
I
Zombaby
will-
doesn't work because the zombies will eat the fucking baby!
which I will say, if Firefly were to have gone on, the way to make the Reavers work well would have been to make them kind of like a cryptid, kind of like a Mothman or Bigfoot or something like that,
Well,
but in
here's the
space.
thing. Here's the thing about the Serenity version, the events. So it was a compartmentalized intelligence operation.
Yes, I will say the Serenity version of events is very MK Ultra and fairly realistic,
Mhm.
but also not at the same time.
The thing is, there was only a small number of people who knew what happened. And they didn't want to glass the planet from orbit because then people would know something happened there. And they figured, Reavers picking off some outlying colonies here and there every so often wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't until Mal Reynolds decided to make it a big deal because he was offended. And unfortunately, we only have comic books to answer that question in more detail.
Which the comic books are trash. I have a couple of them because I was a huge Firefly fan and still am as far as the show goes. But the comic books are so bad.
So here's the question, because we're a comics-based web podcast, supposedly. Why are they bad, Ayrton?
So so the series I read happens directly after the events of Serenity, and there's like some underground faction, and there's some chick with like progressive spiky hair and shit, like goggles. Looks like she should be in an anime from like 2003. And she gets hooked up with the crew after they like flee the planet and release the info that the government made the Reavers and yada yada yada. And because Wash gets killed very abruptly in Serenity, and they need some sort of emotional way to, make that not as like shitty. Like Zoe is pregnant and then she gives birth to a kid. And then there's some like young chick who like teams up with Mal and they have to like go through this like weird ass adventure evading the feds and shit. It's so unrealistic. Like if let's say, for example, someone nowadays released like somehow got hold of the Epstein files, right? And it showed like Epstein was part of Mossad. He had all this information on every single politician, Trump to fucking Pocahontas. Like realistically, what's actually going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. We're going to go on as it were. Society's going to continue going the same way it has been. And they try and make this weird like spy thriller. It's super awkward. It makes no sense. The connections to the resistance, quote unquote, and like the modern day like underground resistance like are loose at best. It's not very good. It's also been like 8 years since I've read it, so that's my vague memory of what the series was about.
The big issue is that Joss Whedon, he has fans who want him to finish the stuff he wanted to tell in the story.
No,
form.
don't finish your shit. Stop. No, Firefly is perfect the way it is. No, I am glad. Sorry, hot take. I am glad Firefly got canceled, because if it went on for another season or two, it would have gotten so gay and so retarded.
The Serenity movie was at least decent.
It was decent, but the fact that Firefly got canceled was a blessing to that IP.
Yes. But remember the Angel comic book he had where both he and Buffy became supreme beings and they had divine sex and created a planet? You remember that?
Is
Pepperidge
Whedon a
Farm
Mormon?
remembers.
Is Whedon a Mormon?
He is not.
Because that's just Mormon theology.
But Joss Whedon told Sarah Michelle Gellar and the chick who played Willow some of the weird shit their characters did in the season 10 comic book. They were like going, okay, that's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't make any sense. You're a fuckhead. That's not how society works. I don't care if it's 200 years in the future and all of human society is a mixture of American and Chinese culture. That's not how humans work. It's just
So I'm gonna make my own hot take here. I'm gonna posit that TV tie-in comics never work. The only reason the Sonic the Hedgehog video game tie-in comic worked is because Archie, having no guideline, just did whatever the fuck they wanted, and loosely based it off of the Saturday morning cartoon show,
which was insanely popular.
There have been 24 comics. There was a short-run Millennium comic. There are Firefly comics. All of them are bad. Because they have to make news stories in an extant universe, but have not only no idea what to do, they have none of the original creators giving guidance on the world building. So they don't know what makes a story in that universe.
But in the case of the Joss Whedon ones, it's more terrible because he's the one writing most of them.
Right, but the thing is that has more to do with we've found out through evidence that Joss Whedon is not very good at writing comics. Because remember, he also gave us Joss Whedon's X-Men.
His X-Men weren't awful.
He turned Beast into a cat man. He can get fucked.
I mean, look, they had to draw it differently to have different IP legal strategies.
His massive solution to the question of costumes was, what if they just wore leather jumpsuits, like in the
Right.
movie?
Like in the movie, because they wanted to synergize with the movie.
Right. See, that's retarded. And
I
we
mean, it's
knew it was
Hollywood,
retarded.
baby.
Right, because Joss Whedon's run of X-Men is not about X-Men. It was about, I want to make movies.
Hmm. But he had been making movies before he made comics.
Right, but he wanted to make an X-Men movie because X-Men was the Marvel property that was doing well at the time.
Yep, but he ended up making an Avengers movie that was way better than any X-Men movie he would have made.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we should pull the show a little early. I think we had a good show.
I mean, within our range of acceptable.
And we'll pull this bus back into the station. Hopefully this time next week. So Ayrton, I think Ayrton.
He's getting that mid-show blowjob.
So good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.